Hi there, welcome to the Schwowin's Nest. My name is Sandra and I've got some farmhouse winter DIYs for you today. Let's get crafting. I'm starting off this first project with these 3 pieces of scrap wood. I've always got some little end pieces that I can do something with. I'm going to start by painting all of them black, and then once they're dry, I'm going to paint them with 3 different colors. The smaller one will be white, the center one or the middle-sized one will be a light gray, and the bottom one will be a dark gray. Putting the black underneath will give me the opportunity to distress the edges a little bit and bring out a little bit of that black so you see it from underneath. I found this new thing on my Cricut and it's called an offset tool, and what it does is create an outline behind your letters. I cut that out in 2 different colors. The outline ends up being the black where you can see the word watch there sort of. And then the letters I did in a sort of textured gray color. And what I'm doing now is just using a little bit of tacky glue, which is like a clear tacky glue, and I'm brushing it on, and then I'll be placing my letters right on top. So you get a really pretty layered look. I just love how this looks, and I was really excited to try it with the cardstock, and it worked perfectly with that as well. It's a little finicky to get your tiny little letters glued on top of the larger piece, but I think the effect is worth it in the long run. As usual, I'll have this available as a free printable on my website. Now that my pieces are completely dry, I'll take a scrap piece of 80 grit sandpaper and just go around the edges, bringing up some of that black paint and also some of the wood underneath. You can distress it as much or as little as you want. You don't even have to distress it at all if that's your preference. What I'm doing here is just tearing some of the paper. Now I'm not using this color of cardstock. This is something that I would have never used in any project. So I flipped it around and I printed a printable on the back side of it because I ran out of white cardstock. I don't have any of that. So I'm just going to measure out how small I need to make this piece, and I'll continue just tearing it with the ruler. I like to do that just to give it more of a rough and rustic look. I printed 3 different designs so each block would have its own patterned background. I'll have these available on my website too. Now I'm going to start gluing on the letters, and for this one I'm just starting to use this Aleene's clear gel tacky glue. I bought a new one because I'm starting to do a little bit more with fabric, and I just didn't like that the hot glue sometimes comes through. So I'm going to give this a try on one of my projects in a little bit and see how that works. But you can use any type of glue you have to put the letters on. I also used the same technique on my Cricut to cut out a double layered snowflake, which is going to go on the top block. Before I glue all the blocks together, I'm going to add some buffalo check ribbon to all 3 of them. This bottom one I'm going to do along the bottom of the block. The center one, I think I'm going to put it on the side, and then I'm just going to create a little 2-fingered bow for the snowflake block. If you'd like to see a slowed down version of how to make a double 2-fingered bow, I'll have a link for that video down in my description box. Using some hot glue, I'm going to stack the blocks together with the largest on the bottom, the middle one, and then the top one. And I'm going to push them all over to the left so that it looks like a bit of a step happening. To add more of a wintry effect, I'm going to be adding some of these little pine branches that are coated with snow. And I've also got some little snowballs here that I'm going to kind of stick on all over the place, a few with the greenery and then on the fronts and the sides. I love how this one turned out. Out of all my projects today, I think this one is my favorite. I'd like to say a warm welcome to all of my current viewers and subscribers. I'd like to wish you a happy new year and I hope your holidays were amazing. I'd also like to give you a big thank you for supporting me in the past years. If you're new to my channel and you like what you see so far, I'd love it if you could hit that red button too. This little snowman decor piece came from, I think, at Dollarama. I'm pretty sure that Dollar Tree had something similar. What I'm going to do is just take all of that little nose off and I'm going to try and get some of the paper off, and it works out pretty good just using my Cricut spatula. I'm going to give it just a couple of coats of white paint. This is actually going to be the back, but I wanted it to look sort of finished. It doesn't turn out as good as I thought because some of the extra paper that I didn't get off bubbled up a little bit, but because it's on the back, you won't see it. Now I've flipped the snowman over, and what was originally the back is now going to be the front because this is much smoother. I'm giving it a couple of coats of white paint, but I'm just going about an inch or so in. You won't need to paint all of this for this project because you won't see the inside of it anyway. So I'm just going to continue doing that. Once this is dry, I'm going to do the same thing with some light gray paint, and I'm going to stay in about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch in from the outside. So you see a little bit of the white and then you see the gray. This gray color is from Faux Home Decor Chalk Paint and it's called Parisian Gray. It's a really nice, soft, muted gray, almost like a dove gray. I really love this color. Now that the gray is completely dry, I'm going to fill in the snowman's face with the white, and I'm going to leave about 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch of the gray peeking out along the sides. In between Christmas and New Year's, I did a little bit of shopping and I went to a fabric store and I found this really pretty gray and sort of a white striped fabric. It's almost like ticking stripe. They didn't have anything like that, but I thought I would give this a shot. So what I'm going to do is just trace the outside of the snowman's hat right on top of the fabric, and then I'm going to cut it out just a little bit smaller so it sits inside the gray outline. So I've got my hat piece, and now what I did is just trace it out on some white felt. And I want to just give it a little bit more of texture, a little bit more, I guess, 3D, if you want to say that. So I'll be gluing the felt onto the bottom side of the hat fabric before I glue it onto the sign. I'm using the Aleene's Clear Gel Tacky Glue to glue the felt onto the back of the hat. And the reason I'm using this glue is I don't like how the hot glue goes through the fabric and you can kind of see it. So I thought I would give this glue a try, and I really like how it works. This glue does take a few minutes to dry, so you just want to make sure that you keep that in mind, but I really liked how it worked with the fabric. You saw the glue kind of go into the fabric and mesh together, but you didn't see any of the glue spots from the front side. To attach his hat to the board, I did switch back to the hot glue because you wouldn't be able to see it through the 2 layers of fabric, and I wanted to make sure that this was stuck down really well. I grabbed one of these Dollar Tree snowflakes and I'm going to give it a couple of coats of white paint, but I'm not going to go around the edges where the burn marks are where they were cut out. I like that little bit of texture and different color. Let's make a sweet little snowman face, and I'm going to start off with the eyes. I just create an oval or a rounded shape. Then I create another circle on the inside, kind of on the larger side, and then I color around it. And that just leaves me that little white bright spot in their eyes. I'm using a Craft Smart black paint pen, and this is an oil base, so you'll have a little bit of shine, but I'm okay with that. Trying to get the next eye to look exactly like this one is always tough for me. So for this one, I decided to use a ruler and kind of point out where my top and bottom of the eye would be so I wouldn't make them too much kitty wampus. Now to make the nose, I'm going to use some of this honey brown paint that I have. I get this from Michael's. It's from Americana brand, and this is the color that I use in the fall. I don't like the bright oranges, so I've just found this color, and it's really a muted orange, sort of a rusty orange color, and I thought this would be perfect for my little carrot nose. So what I'm doing here with my paintbrush is just kind of creating some rounded arcs. Carrots are never usually completely smooth, so I wanted there to be a little bit of texture and some bumps. I'm not going to do as much down at the bottom, and then I'm just going to fill it in with the paint and his little nose will be finished. Using my Craft Smart paint pen again, I'm just going to give him a cute little smile. I also like to do the little ticks at the ends just to give him some little cheeks. For the snowflake, I took the end of my paintbrush and started creating some little dots in the gray paint. And that's just to add a little bit more character to the snowflake too. To give the snowman a cozy scarf, I'm using this loopy yarn that I found. I think it was at my local Dollarama store. It was $4 a skein. And I got a bunch of them last year or the year before, and I really haven't had too much opportunity to use this. So I thought I would just start gluing on some rows. I'm going to go to the end and then I'll just fold it over and glue another row on top and continue until I get all the way up to his neck. I'm just using hot glue to apply it because you won't really see it anyway. Just making sure that all of the loops are hanging down and they don't look too disheveled. For the little part of his scarf that was sticking down on the wood sign, I went ahead and started gluing some shorter pieces onto that. Once I had, I think, 3 of them glued on there, I took some pieces of yarn and glued them on the back of the sign, hanging down even further to make it look like his scarf has a really long tail. Lastly, I cut another piece of the yarn and glued it sort of into a flower formation, kind of a circle, and then I'll glue the snowflake right on top. I love how the snowman turned out. I think he's beautiful for the winter season, but he's still rustic and farmhouse and kind of neutral, so he'll fit in any type of decor. This next project is my newest craft kit that's now available up on my Etsy shop. I'm going to start out by painting this little mini cutting board white. I'm not going to worry about the back so much, but I am going to hit the sides this time because I want to be able to distress it later. While I've got my white paint out, I'm going to try real hard to paint these tiny little marshmallows. They were fun and I got paint all over my hands, but I think they're a really cute addition to this craft kit. Here's a little coffee mug. This has a scored snowflake design on it, so even though you paint it, you'll still be able to see the outline of the lines so you can paint the snowflake whatever color you want. I started off by painting the mug blue, but then I decided later on, and you'll see me change it up in the video, I went to the light gray color instead. The blue just wasn't cutting it for me. To color in the snowflake shape, I'm using a really fine tipped Craft Smart oil paint pen in white, but you could use any color. It doesn't necessarily have to be white. You could also use a chalk pen if you have one, but you need something very fine so you don't go outside of the score lines. Using a small paintbrush and some dark brown paint, I'm just going to draw sort of a really long exaggerated oval on the top of the mug, and that will represent the hot chocolate. I sanded down the edges all the way around to bring back some of that wood, and now I'm going to add a tissue paper transfer. This tissue paper transfer will be available as part of the kit, and I'm just going to be applying it using some Mod Podge. I like to pick up my little piece with my brush. That gives me a little bit more control about where I place it. Using some Mod Podge on my brush, never a dry brush, I'm going to just smooth out the tissue paper, and it basically disappears right into the white paint. The lettering that I used was a little wide for the bottom of this cutting board. I didn't do my measurements properly, so it's very easy. I'm just going to be cutting off what I want to use. And I want to use marshmallows and whipped cream for sure, and sprinkles I can do without. I don't really like sprinkles on my hot chocolate anyway. I'm going to use the same method and then add them with some Mod Podge to the bottom of the board. Here's where you can see I changed the color of the mug from that blue to this light gray, and I think it looks a lot better. I'm going to use hot glue to just attach the mug right to the middle of the board. I thought I wanted to bring in a little bit of the brown color, so I used some twine, wrapped it around the handle of the board, and then just glued it down onto the top of the board. But eventually I end up just cutting those long strands off. I didn't really like how they looked. But I'm then using some of this Dollar Tree baker's twine in blue and white. And this is where I'm going to be gluing my little marshmallows right on top of the twine and then holding it right in place. This is the craft kit that is available now on my Etsy shop. Go take a look. The link is down in my description box, and you might even find something else that suits your decor and that you might want to craft with. I hope you enjoyed my winter decor ideas and got some inspiration to craft a little bit for your home too. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button. The black arrow will tell you exactly where to click. Hit the like button because that gets me noticed more on YouTube and helps my channel grow. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. Happy New Year, and I'll see you in the next one.